In the far north of Thailand, where the borders of Myanmar and Laos blur into the dense emerald jungle of the Golden Triangle, there is a mountain range that looks exactly like a woman lying on her back. Her hair flows to the north, her face looks up at the sky, and her body forms the jagged limestone peaks that dominate the horizon. The locals call her Doi Nang Non, the mountain of the sleeping lady. The legend says she was a beautiful princess who fell in love with a stable boy. When her father, the king, discovered she was pregnant, the lovers fled. They hid in a cave while the boy went out to find food. He was caught and killed by the king's soldiers. When the princess heard the news, she took a hairpin and drove it into her own heart. Her blood became the water that flows through the caves, and her body became the mountain itself. It is a story of love, tragedy, and blood, and it is a warning. The mountain is a beautiful thing, but it is built on sorrow, and it demands respect. At the foot of this mountain lies the town of Mae Sai. It is a dusty, vibrant border town, a place of transit. Many of the people here are ethnic minorities, stateless people belonging to hill tribes who possess no passports and belong to no country. For the boys who grow up here, life can be a dead end. But there is one escape: soccer. The Mupa, or Wild Boars, is a local youth soccer team. To call it just a team is a profound understatement. It is a sanctuary. It is a brotherhood. And the architect of this brotherhood is a 25-year-old assistant coach named Ekapol Chantawong. Everyone calls him Coach Ek. Coach Ek knows what it means to be lost. He was orphaned at the age of 10 when an illness swept through his village, killing his mother, father, and brother. Left completely alone in the world, his extended family sent him to a Buddhist monastery. For a decade, he lived as a monk. He learned to meditate, to control his breathing, to fast, and to quiet his mind in the darkest of places. When he finally left the monastery in the far north of Thailand, where the borders of Myanmar and Laos blur into the dense emerald jungle of the Golden Triangle, there is a mountain range that looks exactly like a woman lying on her back. Her hair flows to the north, her face looks up at the sky, and her body forms the jagged limestone peaks that dominate the horizon. The locals call her Doi Nang Non, the mountain of the sleeping lady. The legend says she was a beautiful princess who fell in love with a stable boy. When her father, the king, discovered she was pregnant, the lovers fled. They hid in a cave while the boy went out to find food. He was caught and killed by the king's soldiers. When the princess heard the news, she took a hairpin and drove it into her own heart. Her blood became the water that flows through the caves, and her body became the mountain itself. It is a story of love, tragedy, and blood, and it is a warning. The mountain is a beautiful thing, but it is built on sorrow, and it demands respect. At the foot of this mountain lies the town of Mae Sai. It is a dusty, vibrant border town, a place of transit. Many of the people here are ethnic minorities, stateless people belonging to hill tribes who possess no passports and belong to no country. For the boys who grow up here, life can be a dead end. But there is one escape: soccer. The Mupa, or Wild Boars, is a local youth soccer team. To call it just a team is a profound understatement. It is a sanctuary. It is a brotherhood. And the architect of this brotherhood is a 25-year-old assistant coach named Ekapol Chantawong. Everyone calls him Coach Ek. Coach Ek knows what it means to be lost. He was orphaned at the age of 10 when an illness swept through his village, killing his mother, father, and brother. Left completely alone in the world, his extended family sent him to a Buddhist monastery. For a decade, he lived as a monk. He learned to meditate, to control his breathing, to fast, and to quiet his mind in the darkest of places. When he finally left the monastery to care for his ailing grandmother, he found a new calling in the boys of Mae Sai. He saw himself in them, the stateless ones, the poor ones, the ones who needed a father. He taught them soccer, but more importantly, he taught them discipline, compassion, and meditation. He loved them fiercely, and they revered him. June 23, 2018, begins like any other Saturday. The air is thick with humidity, the sky a heavy, bruised gray. The monsoon season is officially weeks away, but the air smells like wet earth and impending rain. The boys gather at a local field for a scrimmage. They are a mix of ages, from 11 to 16. There is Titan, the youngest, who plays with a ferocious energy to prove he belongs with the older boys. There is Adul, a 14-year-old stateless boy who speaks 5 languages, a brilliant student who uses soccer to bridge the gap between his uncertain legal status and his undeniable potential. And there is Knight, who is turning 17 today. The scrimmage ends in a joyful, sweaty exhaustion. The boys gather their things. They have a plan. To celebrate Knight's birthday, they are going to ride their bicycles to the base of the Sleeping Lady. They are going to explore Tham Luang Nung Non, the great cave of the Sleeping Lady. It is a popular local hangout. During the dry season, the cave is a sprawling 6-mile-long limestone labyrinth of massive chambers, narrow tunnels, and intricate rock formations. The boys have been inside before. It is a rite of passage. The plan is simple. Go in, hike to a chamber known as Pattaya Beach, write their names on the wall, and come back out to eat the birthday snacks they pooled their money to buy. SpongeBob SquarePants chips, some candy, and a few bottles of water. Coach Eck agrees to take them. He knows the cave. He knows the boys. He figures it will be a 2-hour adventure. He tells them to hurry, as he has to be back to help his aunt clean her house that evening. 12 boys and 1 coach ride their bicycles up the winding dirt road toward the mountain. They laugh, racing each other, their cleats clicking against the pedals. They reach the visitor center at the base of the mountain. It is quiet. The rangers are in their offices. The boys lean their bicycles against the metal railing near the entrance. They take off their soccer cleats, leaving them in a neat row, and change into flip-flops or comfortable sneakers. They don't bring jackets. They don't bring extra food. They don't bring heavy-duty spelunking gear. They have their cheap plastic flashlights, their cell phones, and the clothes on their backs. At the entrance to the cave, there is a large, imposing sign. It reads, "Danger. Do not enter the cave during the rainy season, July to November." It is June 23rd. They are technically in the clear. But nature does not read a calendar. They step out of the stifling jungle heat and into the cool, limestone throat of the mountain. The temperature drops instantly. The smell of damp rock and bat guano fills the air. They switch on their flashlights. The beams of light cut through the gloom, illuminating massive stalactites hanging like stone daggers from the ceiling. They walk through Chamber 1, a massive cavern that feels like a cathedral. They joke and push each other, their voices echoing off the walls. They crawl through the narrow passage into Chamber 2. The darkness here is absolute. If you turn off your flashlight, you cannot see your own hand pressed against your nose. But they are not afraid. They are with Coach Eck. They are the Wild Boars. They are invincible. They reach a T-junction known as Monk's Junction. To the left is a dead end. To the right, the path leads deeper into the mountain, toward Pattaya Beach. The boys take the right path. They climb over boulders, squeeze through tight crevices, and splash through shallow, ankle-deep puddles of crystal-clear water. They are miles inside the earth now. The silence is profound, broken only by their laughter and the splashing of their feet. They reach the sandy embankment they call Pattaya Beach. They use rocks to scratch their names into the limestone walls. They sit in the cool sand, laughing, turning off their flashlights to experience the total darkness, then turning them back on to scare each other. It is perfect. It is an innocent, beautiful afternoon. But outside, miles above them, the sky rips open. It is not just a rainstorm. It is a freak, unseasonal monsoon deluge. Millions of gallons of water crash down onto the sleeping lady. The mountain is made of karst limestone, which means it is essentially a giant porous sponge. The water does not run off the mountain, it runs into it. It filters through thousands of unseen cracks and sinkholes, gathering momentum, turning into underground rivers. Tham Luang Cave is shaped like a giant winding U-tube. It has high chambers connected by deep, V-shaped valleys. When the water enters the mountain, it rushes to the lowest points of the cave, filling those valleys from the floor to the ceiling. Deep inside, Coach Ek looks at his cheap wristwatch. It is time to go. Knight's family is waiting for them to cut the birthday cake. He tells the boys to pack up the wrappers. They stand up, dust the sand off their shorts, and begin the long hike back toward the entrance. They hike for an hour, their legs tired but their spirits high. They reach a section of the cave they had easily walked through earlier. Coach Ek stops. He shines his flashlight forward. The beam of light hits something that shouldn't be there. It hits a solid, churning wall of muddy brown water. The V-shaped valley ahead of them, which had been completely dry an hour ago, is now entirely submerged. The water is rising fast, swirling with debris and a terrifying low roar. The boys crowd behind him, their flashlight beams dancing wildly across the rising flood. The laughter dies instantly. The cool air of the cave suddenly feels like a freezer. Coach Ek stares at the water. He looks back at the 12 terrified faces illuminated by the dying yellow light of their flashlights. The water is rising by the minute, pushing them backward. The mountain has swallowed them, and the sleeping lady has just locked the door. The water does not just rise, it hunts. It surges through the limestone corridors with a violent, churning energy, bringing with it the smell of rotting jungle leaves and deep earth. Coach Ek stands at the edge of the submerged valley, the beam of his flashlight cutting through the mist kicked up by the churning rapids. He makes a desperate calculation. To go forward is impossible. The current is too strong, the water too deep, and none of them have any idea how far the flooded section extends. To stay here is a death sentence. The water is climbing up their shins. There is only one direction left, deeper. They have to run further into the belly of the sleeping lady, away from the entrance, away from home. "Move!" Coach Ek yells over the roar of the water. "Back up the hill, go!" The boys scramble. The playful energy of the afternoon is entirely gone, replaced by the primal, electric jolt of adrenaline. They slip on the wet clay, their flip-flops offering no traction. Some abandon their shoes entirely, their bare feet gripping the sharp limestone. They retreat to Pattaya Beach, the high sandy bank where they had just carved their names. But the water follows them. It crests the edge of the beach, swallowing the sand, eating away at the ground beneath their feet. "It's not stopping," Titan, the youngest, says. His voice is trembling. Coach Ek knows they cannot stay here. They push deeper into the cave, moving into uncharted territory. They climb over jagged boulders, scraping their knees and elbows in the frantic dark. They reach an elevated slope, a muddy mound roughly 3 miles from the cave entrance. It is called Nern Noen Nom Sao. It is a steep, slippery shelf of rock and mud, but it is high. It is dry. They scramble up the slope. They sit in the dark, panting, their chests heaving. Below them, they can hear the water rushing past, a terrifying, relentless roar. They wait for it to recede. They wait for the rain outside to stop. An hour passes, then 2. The water does not drop, it rises. It creeps up the base of their mud shelf, stopping just a few feet below them. They are trapped on an island of dirt in a sea of black water. Then comes the second tragedy, the flashlights. They had brought cheap plastic torches, the kind you buy at a convenience store. One by one, the batteries begin to fail. The bright white beams fade to a sickly yellow, then to a faint orange glow, and finally, to nothing. When the last flashlight dies, the boys are plunged into a darkness that is impossible to comprehend on the surface. It is not the darkness of a bedroom at night, where streetlights bleed through the blinds. It is absolute, total sensory deprivation. It is a darkness so thick it feels like a physical weight pressing against their eyeballs. You can wave your hand a millimeter from your face and see absolutely nothing. The human brain is not built for this. Deprived of visual input, the mind begins to panic. It invents shapes. It hallucinates light. The boys huddle together on the mud slope. The temperature in the cave is around 73 degrees Fahrenheit, but they are wearing thin soccer jerseys and shorts. They are wet. The dampness seeps into their bones. They begin to shiver violently. To stay warm, they dig. Using their bare hands and loose pieces of limestone, they scrape out a shallow terrace in the side of the mud slope. They pack themselves into the hole, limbs tangled together, trying to share whatever body heat they have left. Coach Ek sits at the edge of the huddle. The psychological weight on his shoulders is crushing. He is the adult. He is the coach. He brought them here. He listens to the whimpering in the dark. He hears Night, whose 17th birthday is slipping away in this lightless tomb. He hears the shivering of Titan. Guilt threatens to tear his mind apart. But he knows that if he breaks, the boys will break. He has to give them something to hold on to. Coach Ek reaches back into his past. He remembers the monastery. He remembers the long days of fasting, the silence, and the discipline of the mind. He knows that in a survival situation, panic is a faster killer than starvation. Panic causes you to breathe faster, burning up precious oxygen. Panic makes you burn calories you cannot replace. He speaks into the dark. His voice is calm, steady, and low. "Listen to me," he says. "We are not going to die, but we have to wait. And to wait, we have to be still." He teaches the 12 boys the fundamentals of Buddhist meditation. He tells them to sit quietly. He tells them to focus entirely on their breath. Inhale, exhale. He instructs them to empty their minds of fear, to stop thinking about the water, to stop thinking about their parents, and to focus only on the air entering and leaving their lungs. In the pitch black of the cave, a remarkable transformation occurs. The terrified, shivering soccer team becomes a congregation of young monks. They follow his lead. The frantic hyperventilation slows. The crying stops. They enter a state of deep rest, conserving their energy, lowering their heart rates, and preserving the limited oxygen in their small air pocket. When thirst becomes unbearable, Coach Ek forbids them from drinking the floodwater swirling beneath them. It is thick with mud, farm runoff, and bacteria. Drinking it would cause dysentery, which would dehydrate and kill them in days. Instead, he listens. He hears the faint plink, plink, plink of water dripping from the stalactites above. It is groundwater, filtered through hundreds of feet of limestone. It is clean. He guides the boys in the dark, feeling the wet rock walls, finding the spots where the water drips. They take turns licking the moisture from the cold stone, or letting the drops fall onto their tongues. It is just enough to keep their organs functioning. But they have no food, not a single crumb. The birthday snacks were dropped or swept away. The human body can survive weeks without food, but the process of starvation is agonizing. The stomach cramps. The muscles ache as the body begins to consume its own fat and then its own tissue. Coach Eck refuses to eat even the smallest drop of nutrients that might be found. He insists that the boys drink the clean water first. He tells them he is not hungry. It is a lie born of profound love. While the boys meditate in the crushing dark, the surface world is waking up to the nightmare. It is Saturday evening. Knight's parents have prepared a birthday feast. The cake is sitting on the table, but Knight is not home. Titan's mother is waiting for him. Adul is missing. The parents begin to call each other. The frantic network of a small town activates. No one has seen the team since the scrimmage. A park ranger at the Tham Luang Visitor Center is doing his final rounds before locking the gates for the night. The rain is coming down in sheets. As he walks past the entrance of the cave, his flashlight sweeps across the metal railing. He stops. Leaned against the rail are 11 bicycles. In front of them, neatly lined up, is a row of muddy soccer cleats and backpacks. The ranger shines his light into the mouth of the cave. He sees the muddy brown water rushing out of the entrance, spilling over the rocks like a ruptured artery. He knows what this means. He grabs his radio. The parents arrive at the cave entrance in the dead of night. They stand in the pouring rain, looking at the bicycles. Mothers fall to their knees in the mud, weeping, screaming the names of their children into the roaring, black maw of the mountain. The sound of their cries is drowned out by the thunder and the rushing water. Local police and rescue workers arrive, but they are powerless. They stand at the edge of the floodwater just inside Chamber 1. The current is too fast. The water is entirely opaque, the color of cold coffee. To dive into it would be suicide. The reality sets in. The boys are not just lost. They are buried alive. Inside the cave, time ceases to exist. There is no sunrise. There is no sunset. There is only the eternal freezing night. Days bleed together. They sleep in fitful bursts, waking up disoriented, forgetting for a split second where they are before the smell of the damp earth and the hard rock beneath them brings the horror rushing back. To keep their minds occupied, Coach Eck encourages them to dig. They use rock fragments to carve a tunnel into the mud wall of their slope, hoping, against all logic, that they might dig their way out to the surface. It is a futile effort. They are a kilometer beneath the peak of the mountain. But the physical act of digging gives them purpose. It keeps them warm. It gives them a goal. They talk about food. It is a common psychological defense mechanism for the starving. They whisper into the dark about what they will eat when they get out. Pork basil, fried chicken, sticky rice. They promise each other they will share meals. But underneath the brave talk, the physical toll is mounting. Their bodies are shrinking. Their collarbones jut out against their damp jerseys. Their lips are cracked. The air in their chamber is growing stale. As the floodwaters seal off the exits, the oxygen levels in their pocket begin to slowly drop, and the carbon dioxide levels rise. They are slowly being suffocated, starved, and frozen. Coach X sits with them, listening to their breathing slow down as the oxygen thins. He closes his eyes and meditates. He prays to the Buddha. He prays to the spirit of the sleeping lady. He asks her for forgiveness. He asks her to take him, but to spare his boys. Miles above them, the world is mobilizing. But for the 13 souls on the mud shelf, there is only the dark, the dripping water, and the quiet, desperate hope that someone is coming. By Monday morning, June 25th, the muddy clearing at the base of the mountain has transformed into a chaotic tent city. It is a scene of desperation. Generators hum, powering massive floodlights that cut through the relentless rain. Hundreds of soldiers, police officers, and volunteers are stomping through the ankle-deep sludge. Governor Narongsak arrives to take command. He is a stern man, an engineer by training, and he looks at the scene with a sinking heart. He sees the parents sitting in plastic chairs under a tarp, staring at the cave entrance. They have not slept. They have not eaten. They are holding pictures of their sons. He looks at the cave. The water has risen to the entrance. It is no longer just a stream. It is a river flowing out of the mountain. The pumps they have brought are toys against the monsoon. For every gallon they pump out, the sky dumps 1,000 gallons in. Governor Narongsak knows he needs more than local police. He makes the call. He calls the Royal Thai Navy SEALs. The SEALs arrive with the swagger of elite operators. They are the best of the best. Men trained in amphibious warfare, demolition, and open water combat. They carry heavy oxygen tanks and high-tech rebreathers. They look at the cave and see just another enemy to be conquered. They dive in. But Tham Luang is not the ocean. In the ocean, if you get in trouble, you swim up. In a cave, there is no up. There is only rock. The SEALs push into the flooded chambers. Immediately, they are blinded. The water is a thick slurry of mud, clay, and debris. Visibility is zero. They cannot see their depth gauges. They cannot see their compasses. They are banging their heads against stalactites they cannot see. Their equipment is wrong. Their tanks are too big to fit through the narrow squeezes. Their regulators clog with grit. They fight the current for hours, clawing their way forward by feel, but they are beaten back. They emerge from the water exhausted, bruised, and bleeding. They look at the governor and shake their heads. "We can't get through," the commander says. "The current is too strong. We can't see anything." It is a terrifying admission. If the SEALs can't do it, who can? Living in Mae Sai is a British expat named Vern Unsworth. He is 63 years old, a caver who has spent years exploring the Tham Luang system. He knows the cave better than anyone on Earth. He knows the cracks, the squeezes, and the currents. He walks into the rescue camp. He is not military. He is just an old man in muddy boots. He finds the governor. "The SEALs are brave," Vern says bluntly, "but they are going to die in there. This is not diving. This is cave diving. It is a different sport." He explains the difference. Open water diving is about freedom. Cave diving is about restriction. It requires specific techniques, specific gear, and a specific psychological profile. "You need the British," Vern says. "You need the A-team." He writes down names on a piece of paper: Rick Stanton, John Valanthan, Robert Harper. The Thai officials are skeptical. Why call middle-aged hobbyists from the UK when you have the Navy SEALs? Vern is insistent. Because they are the best in the world at this specific nightmare. 3 days later, Rick Stanton and John Valanthan touch down in Thailand. They do not look like heroes. Rick is a retired firefighter from Coventry. He is quiet, grumpy, and disheveled. He makes his own diving gear out of modified industrial parts because he trusts his own engineering more than factory standards. John is an IT consultant from Bristol. He is polite, soft-spoken, and runs marathons. They are carrying battered duffel bags filled with strange-looking equipment, side-mount harnesses, thick rubber dry suits, heavy-duty guidelines. They walk into the chaos of the rescue camp. The Thai SEALs look at them with suspicion. These are the saviors? 2 old Farangs, foreigners, with gray hair? Rick and John don't care about appearances. They care about the water. They gear up. They don't march. They shuffle. They enter the water. Segment 16. The coffee grinder. The conditions inside have worsened. The rain has been relentless. The current is ripping through the narrow passages like a fire hose. Rick and John submerge. They enter a world of violent sensory deprivation. The water is churning so hard it rips their masks off their faces if they aren't careful. They have to pull themselves along the floor, digging their fingers into the mud, fighting for every inch. They are laying a guideline. This is their lifeline. A thin white nylon cord that marks the path out. If they lose the line in zero visibility, they die. They push past the point where the seals turn back. They squeeze through a restriction called the T-junction. It is barely wide enough for a human body. They have to detach their tanks, push them through the hole, and then wriggle through after them, all while underwater, blind and holding their breath. They surface in Chamber 3. It is a massive cavern, now half filled with water. It has become the forward operating base. They dive again. They are looking for Pattaya Beach. They believe the boys are there. But when they reach Pattaya Beach, their hearts sink. It is flooded. The sandy bank where the boys were supposed to be is underwater. Rick and John hover in the black water. If the boys were here, they drowned days ago. But they don't turn back. They have a theory. If the water rose, John thinks, they would have run higher, to the mud slope, Nern Noanom Sao. It is another 400 meters deeper, through the most dangerous section of the cave. It is Monday, July 2nd, day 9. The boys have been in the dark for over 200 hours. Rick and John are on their final push. They are exhausted. They are running low on line. They have agreed that if they don't find them today, the chances of finding them alive are effectively zero. They dive through a jagged, winding tunnel. The silence is broken only by the sound of their own breathing regulator. Hiss, clack, hiss, clack. They are 2.5 miles inside the mountain. John Valanthan is in the lead. He is laying the line. Suddenly, the line runs out. He has to stop. He has to tie it off. He floats up to the surface to find a rock to tie the line to. He breaks the surface of the water. He expects to see a rock wall. He expects silence. Instead, his headlamp beam cuts through the darkness and hits something moving. Eyes, reflecting in the light. John rips his regulator out of his mouth. He can't believe what he is seeing. On the mud slope, huddled together, are 13 emaciated figures. They are small. They are frail. But they are moving. They scramble down the bank toward the light. They have not seen light in 9 days. One of the boys, Adul, the one who speaks English, calls out, "Thank you." John Valanthan, the IT consultant from Bristol, stares at them. He takes a breath. He activates his camera. "How many of you?" John asks. The voice comes back, weak but clear. 13. John's heart hammers against his ribs. 13? "Yeah, 13, Adul says. John smiles. It is a smile of pure shock and relief. "Brilliant," John says. It is the most understated word in the history of rescue. "We are hungry," Adul says. "Can we go home?" John looks at the water swirling between them. He looks at the narrow, deadly tunnel he just swam through. He knows the truth. Finding them was the miracle, but getting them out? "Not today," John says gently. "You have to dive." "Dive?" Adul asks. "Not today," John repeats. "Many people are coming. We are the first. Many people are coming." Rick surfaces beside John. He looks at the boys. He does the math instantly. They are alive, but they are miles deep. They are weak. They can't swim. And the monsoon is about to get worse. The joy of discovery lasts for about 10 seconds. Then, the dread sets in. They have found them. Now, they have to figure out how to get them out of a tomb without killing them. The video flashes across the globe in a matter of hours. The shaky, low-light footage of the 13 emaciated boys sitting on the mud slope in their red and blue soccer jerseys becomes an instant icon of hope. In Mae Sai, the parents weep with joy. In Bangkok, Strangers embrace in the streets. The world believes the Thai cave rescue is over. They have been found. The story has a happy ending. But inside the rescue command tent at the mouth of the cave, there is no celebration. There is only a suffocating, heavy dread. Rick Stanton and John Valanthan strip off their wet, dry suits in grim silence. The Thai generals, the politicians, and the SEAL commanders gather around them, waiting for the extraction plan. "How do we get them out?" the governor asks. Rick looks at him. "You don't." The silence in the tent is absolute. Rick explains the physics of the trap. The boys are 2.5 miles deep. The route involves climbing over jagged rocks, wading through chest-deep mud, and most terrifyingly, navigating completely submerged, zero-visibility tunnels that take expert divers over 3 hours to transit one way. There are restrictions so tight a man cannot wear a standard air tank on his back. He must take it off and push it through the hole before squeezing his own shoulders through the rock. "They are starving," John adds quietly. "They are weak. They don't know how to swim, let alone cave dive. If you put a mask on a panicked, starving child and drag him through black, freezing water for 3 hours, he will rip his own mask off in the dark. He will drown. And he will likely drown the diver trying to save him." The joy of the morning evaporates. The mountain has not surrendered. It has only revealed its hostages. The command center spirals into desperate brainstorming. Engineers bring in massive drilling equipment. The idea is simple. Find the exact GPS coordinates of the mud slope and drill a hole straight down through the roof of the cave to pull them up. But the sleeping lady is not a flat plateau. It is a jagged, vertical jungle. There are no roads for the heavy machinery. And even if they could get the drills into position, they are dealing with nearly a kilometer of solid limestone. Drilling would take months. They don't have months. Another option is proposed. Wait it out. The cave is a seasonal flood drain. By November, the dry season will return. The water will recede, and the boys can simply walk out. The plan is to pump food, medicine, and clean water into the chamber for 4 months. But the mountain has 2 ticking clocks, and both of them are running out of time. The first clock is the sky. It is early July. The true monsoon has not even begun. When the heavy rains hit in a matter of days, the water level inside the cave will rise another 20 feet. It will completely submerge the mud slope where the boys are sitting. There is no higher ground. They will drown in the dark. The second clock is invisible. It is the air. Tham Luang is a dead-end chamber right now. The floodwaters have sealed the entrance. 13 sets of human lungs are inhaling oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide. A Thai SEAL doctor, Pak Loharnshun, manages to make the grueling dive to the boys. He brings them foil blankets and high-calorie gels. But when he tests the air, his blood runs cold. Normal atmospheric oxygen is 21%. The air on the mudslope has dropped to 15%. At 12%, the human brain begins to fail. Hallucinations start. At 10%, a person falls into a coma and does not wake up. The boys are not just starving, they are slowly, invisibly suffocating. Waiting is death. Drilling is impossible. Diving is suicide. The terrifying reality of the dive is proven on July 6th. Saman Kunan is a former Thai Navy SEAL. He is 38 years old, a triathlete, a man in the absolute prime of his physical life. When he heard about the trapped boys, he volunteered immediately, leaving his job in airport security to return to the water. His mission is routine by the standards of the rescue. He is delivering spare oxygen tanks along the underwater route, staging them like breadcrumbs for the divers to use. He makes the drop. He turns back toward the entrance. Somewhere in the murky, freezing labyrinth of Chamber 3, Saman runs out of air. He loses consciousness in the dark, His dive partner finds him floating lifelessly in the flooded tunnel. They drag his body to the surface, performing frantic CPR on the muddy banks of the cave. But it is too late. Saman Kunan is gone. The news hits the rescue camp like an artillery shell. The psychological toll is devastating. The parents weep for the widow of the fallen soldier. But beneath the grief is a chilling, inescapable logic. If a 38-year-old elite Navy SEAL, a triathlete in peak physical condition with top-tier equipment, can die in this cave, how can anyone expect a 12-year-old starving, exhausted boy to survive the exact same journey? The mountain has claimed its first life. The aura of invincibility surrounding the military divers is shattered. The water is a killer. Rick Stanton and John Valanthan know there is only one way out. It is an idea so radical, so dangerous, and so ethically terrifying that they hesitate to even voice it aloud. They need Dr. Richard Harris. Harry, as he is known, is an Australian anesthetist, but more importantly, he is one of the premier cave divers on the planet. He is a man who understands both the fragile chemistry of the human body and the brutal physics of underwater caves. Rick calls Harry in Australia. He explains the situation. Then, he explains the plan. "We want to anesthetize them," Rick says, "completely unconscious. We tie their hands behind their backs so they can't thrash. We put a positive pressure, full-face mask on them. We strap them to our chests, and we swim them out like packages." On the other end of the line, Dr. Harris is silent. When he speaks, his voice is flat. "Rick, that is crazy. You can't put an unfasted, exhausted child under general anesthesia, submerge them in freezing water, and bounce them off rock walls for 3 hours. Their airways will collapse. They will drown in their own saliva. The masks will leak. It's euthanasia." "Harry," Rick replies, "if we leave them, they are 100% dead. The oxygen is dropping. The rain is coming." Dr. Harris packs his bags. He flies to Thailand. When he arrives, he dives to the mud slope to examine the boys. He looks at their frail bodies. He checks their chests. He looks into the eyes of Coach Eck, the young man who has kept them calm, sane, and alive for 2 weeks through sheer willpower and meditation. Harry swims back out. He sits in the command tent. The Thai generals, the British divers, and the American military advisors wait for his verdict. Harry looks at the ground. He shakes his head. "I give it a 0% chance of success," Dr. Harris says. "I think we will bring out 13 dead bodies." He pauses. The silence is heavy with the weight of impending doom. "But," Harry continues, his voice breaking slightly, "it is the only option. We have to try." The plan is greenlit by the Thai government. It is a massive legal and ethical risk. If the boys die, the divers could face manslaughter charges. They demand diplomatic immunity before they proceed. Dr. Harris calculates the cocktail of drugs. It must be a precise, miraculous balance. First, a pill of Xanax to crush the terror. Second, an injection of atropine into the thigh muscle to dry up the saliva in their mouths, preventing them from choking on their own fluids while unconscious. And finally, the masterstroke, ketamine. Ketamine is a horse tranquilizer, often used in battlefield medicine. It will render the boys completely unconscious, but unlike other anesthetics, it does not suppress the respiratory drive. They will continue to breathe on their own. But ketamine wears off in 45 minutes. The dive takes 3 hours. This means the rescue divers will have to stop in the middle of flooded, pitch-black underwater chambers, pull out a syringe, find a vein or muscle on a shivering, unconscious child, and re-inject them with ketamine in the dark. If they inject too little, the boy wakes up underwater, panics, and drowns them both. If they inject too much, the boy's heart stops. It is a plan of absolute terrifying madness. July 7th, the day before the extraction. The Thai Navy SEALs bring waterproof paper and pens to the mudslope. They tell the boys that they are going to begin the rescue soon. They do not tell them about the needles. They do not tell them about the anesthesia. They just ask them to write letters to their families. The boys sit in the dim light of the SEALs' headlamps, writing on their knees. Their handwriting is shaky. Knight writes, "Don't worry about me. I love you all. Dad, Mom, Sister, please don't forget to prepare my birthday party." Titan writes, "Mom and Dad, please don't worry. I'm fine. Tell brother to get ready to take me out for fried chicken." But the most heartbreaking letter comes from the man who blames himself for it all. Coach Eck takes the pen. He writes to the parents waiting in the mud outside. "To all the parents," he writes, "the kids are all fine. I promise I will take the very best care of them. Thank you for all your moral support, and I sincerely apologize to the parents." When the letters are brought out to the surface, the parents weep. They write back, sending the letters in with the next dive team. "Coach Eck," one mother writes, "please don't blame yourself. We do not blame you. We are waiting for you too. You have to come out with them. You are part of the team." Deep in the mountain, the oxygen meter clicks down to 14%. The barometer drops. The dark clouds over the sleeping lady begin to open up. The monsoon has arrived. The clock has run out. Tomorrow, they dive. July 8th, day 15 of the ordeal. The rain is falling in sheets over the Golden Triangle. Inside the mountain, the water levels are fluctuating wildly, fighting the massive industrial pumps operating near the entrance. The rescue team knows they cannot extract all 13 people at once. It will take 3 days, 4 boys today, 4 tomorrow, and the final 4, plus Coach Eck, on the 3rd day. Dr. Richard Harris, the Australian anesthetist, sits on the muddy slope. He looks at the first 4 boys chosen to leave. They are terrified. They have been told they are going to sleep, and when they wake up, they will be with their mothers. It is a comforting lie designed to mask the sheer, unprecedented violence of the medical procedure about to take place. Dr. Harris prepares the syringe. He administers the Xanax to calm their racing hearts. Then, the atropine to dry their mouths. Finally, he finds a muscle in the thigh of the first boy. He injects the ketamine. Within minutes, the boy's eyes roll back. His body goes completely limp. He slumps into the mud, a rag doll in a red soccer jersey. The Thai Navy SEALs who have been living on the slope with the boys watch in stunned silence. It looks exactly like death. They are witnessing the intentional shutting down of a human being in the deepest, most hostile environment imaginable. Dr. Harris moves quickly. There is no time for second guessing. Once the ketamine is in, the clock starts. The drug will only keep the boy deeply unconscious for about 45 minutes. The divers dress the limp child in a thick, custom-fitted neoprene wetsuit. The water in the cave is brutally cold, and an unconscious body cannot shiver to generate heat. Hypothermia would stop the boy's heart before he made it halfway. Next, they bind the boy's wrists together behind his back with nylon zip ties. They bind his ankles. It is a shocking, brutal necessity. If the boy wakes up prematurely in the pitch-black water, his first instinct will be to thrash, to rip off his mask, and to claw at the diver carrying him. Binding him is the only way to ensure he doesn't drown them both. Finally, the most critical piece of equipment: a positive pressure, full-face silicone mask. It covers the boy's entire face, from forehead to chin, sealing out the muddy water. It is hooked directly to an oxygen cylinder. The positive pressure means that air is constantly blowing into the mask. If the seal breaks, air rushes out rather than water rushing in. The diver clips the boy to his chest harness. They are tethered together, chest to back. The diver takes a deep breath of compressed air. He places one hand firmly on the back of the boy's head, tucking the child's face into his own stomach to protect the mask from smashing against the jagged rocks. With a splash, the diver sinks beneath the black water, dragging the unconscious child into the abyss. British cave diver Jason Mallinson is one of the lead extraction divers. He is carrying a boy through the flooded tunnel of Chamber 8. The visibility is absolute zero. Jason cannot see his own hands. He cannot see the boy strapped to his chest. He navigates entirely by touch, his left hand gripping the thin white guideline that twists through the submerged labyrinth, his right hand shielding the boy's face. The journey is a violent, physical brawl against the mountain. The currents push and pull them. Jason bumps into stalactites. He scrapes against the limestone ceiling. Every time the boy's head bumps a rock, Jason's heart stops. If the mask gets dislodged, the boy will drown in seconds, and Jason will not even be able to see it happen. He can only rely on one sense: hearing. Over the deafening roar of his own exhaled bubbles, Jason listens intently for the sound of the boy's breathing. Hiss, click, hiss, click. The rhythmic sound of the regulator feeding oxygen into the child's lungs. As long as he hears that click, the boy is alive. They reach a tight restriction, a hole in the rock barely wide enough for one person. Jason cannot swim through it with the boy strapped to his chest. He has to unclip the child. In the freezing dark, Jason pushes the limp, bound body of the boy through the narrow gap ahead of him. He blindly shoves the child into the rock, hoping the mask holds, hoping the airway remains clear. Then, Jason wriggles his own body through the hole, blindly searching for the boy on the other side, feeling for the neoprene suit in the dark, and reattaching the clips. 40 minutes into the dive, Jason feels the boy stir. The ketamine is wearing off. The boy's bound hands twitch. His legs jerk against the zip ties. He is waking up underwater. Jason stops in the pitch black. He holds the boy tight against his chest. He reaches into a waterproof pouch strapped to his leg. He pulls out a preloaded syringe of ketamine. In zero visibility, underwater, hovering in a flooded cave, Jason has to find a muscle in the boy's leg through the thick neoprene wetsuit. He jams the needle blindly through the rubber suit and into the boy's thigh, plunging the plunger. He waits. A terrifying minute passes. Then, the boy goes limp again. The drug takes hold. The thrashing stops. Jason exhales, the bubbles rushing past his ears, and grips the guideline once more. 2 miles from the mudslope, Chamber 3 is a hive of frantic activity. This massive half-flooded cavern is the forward operating base. It is staffed by a coalition of U.S. Air Force pararescue jumpers, Thai Navy SEALs, and international volunteers. They are standing in chest-deep water, waiting in the dark. Suddenly, a glow appears in the muddy water. The beam of a diver's headlamp breaks the surface. Jason Mallinson emerges. Attached to his chest is a small, unmoving figure in a red wetsuit. The rescue workers rush forward. They unclip the boy. He looks completely dead. His lips are pale, his body is rigid with cold, and he is entirely unresponsive. The pararescue jumpers hoist the boy out of the water and carry him onto a dry rock shelf. They strip off the full-face mask. A medical team descends on the child. They check his pulse. It is faint, but it is there. He is breathing. The relief in Chamber 3 is electric, but there is no time to celebrate. The boy is still deep inside the mountain. He is hypothermic, and the anesthesia is highly unstable. They strap the unconscious boy into a rigid sked stretcher, a thick plastic sled designed to protect the body from impacts. They wrap him in thermal blankets. Now begins the dry relay. Hundreds of men have formed a human chain through the jagged, treacherous, dry sections of the cave between Chamber 3 and the entrance. They stand on slippery boulders, balancing over deep chasms. They pass the heavy stretcher from hand to hand, sliding it over the rocks. Where the path drops vertically, they hook the stretcher to a complex system of climbing ropes and pulleys, zip-lining the unconscious boy across the dark ravines. It is grueling, back-breaking labor. The air is thick with diesel fumes from the pumps, making it hard to breathe. The stretcher bangs against the walls, but the men do not stop. They haul, carry, and slide the package toward the light. At the cave entrance, the medical tents are prepped like a battlefield trauma center. Ambulances are lined up, their engines running. Helicopters sit on the muddy landing pads, their rotors spinning lazily in the rain. The radio crackles. Package 1 is at Chamber 2. The tension is unbearable. The parents have been moved to a holding area. The media is pushed back. Then, out of the dark throat of the mountain, a line of exhausted men emerges, carrying a bright orange stretcher. The medics swarm the sled. They check the boy's airway. He is rushed into the field hospital tent. He is stabilized, loaded into an ambulance, and driven code 3 to the helicopters. Within hours, the impossible happens again. A second boy is brought out, then a third, then a fourth. By nightfall on July 8th, the first 4 boys are flying toward the hospital in Chiang Rai. The rescue divers emerge from the water. They are physically broken. Their hands are raw, their muscles cramping from the freezing water and the immense psychological stress of carrying a child's life in their arms. They sit in the command tent, eating cold rations, staring at the floor. Governor Narongsak holds a press conference. He does not smile. He announces that 4 boys have been rescued, but he refuses to release their names. He knows that if he tells the world who is safe, he will break the hearts of the 9 families whose sons are still sitting in the dark, waiting for the needle. The operation halts. They need to replace the empty oxygen tanks staged along the route. They need to rest. The next day, July 9th, they do it all over again. The divers plunge back into the black water. Dr. Harris administers the ketamine, the blind transit, the underwater injections, the relay of the stretchers. The mountain fights them every step of the way. A guideline snaps, forcing a diver to blindly search the cavern floor until he finds it again. A full-face mask begins to leak, requiring a terrifying underwater adjustment while the boy is unconscious. But by the end of the second day, 4 more boys are pulled from the mountain. 8 boys are safe. The world is watching in absolute awe. The medical community is astounded that the anesthesia plan has not resulted in a single fatality. But inside the cave, the hardest part is yet to come. It is the night of July 9th. The monsoon rains are intensifying, pouring millions of gallons of water into the sleeping lady. The pumps are screaming, running far past their red lines. On the mud slope, there are only 5 people left, 4 of the weakest boys, and Coach Eck. They are the last ones in the dark, and the mountain is about to make one final attempt to keep them there. July 10th, day 17. The rain over the Golden Triangle is absolute. The sky is black, pouring millions of gallons of water onto the sleeping lady. Inside the mountain, the water level is visibly rising, creeping up the walls of Chamber 3. The massive industrial pumps are screaming, pushed far beyond their mechanical limits, spitting thick black diesel smoke into the humid air. On the mud slope, deep in the earth, it is quiet. There are only 5 people left. 4 of the smallest boys, including Titan and the young assistant coach, Ekapol Chantawong. Coach Ek is in the worst physical condition of them all. For over 2 weeks, he has refused to eat the meager scraps of food the Thai SEALs brought down. He gave every calorie, every foil packet of gel to his boys. He is a ghost of a man, his cheekbones sharp, his eyes hollow. But his spirit is unbroken. He sits in the lotus position, meditating, waiting for his turn. Dr. Richard Harris, the Australian anesthetist who has orchestrated this terrifying medical miracle, arrives for the final time. He is exhausted. His hands shake slightly as he unpacks his waterproof Pelican case. He prepares the syringes of ketamine. The final 4 boys are injected. One by one, their eyes roll back, their bodies go limp, and they are strapped into the heavy silicone full-face masks. The British rescue divers take them, plunging into the black water, pulling the bound, unconscious children into the flooded abyss. Finally, only Coach Eck remains. He looks at Dr. Harris and the 3 Thai Navy SEALs, who volunteered to stay on the mudslope to the bitter end. Coach Eck brings his hands together in a traditional Thai greeting, a Y, bowing his head in profound respect and gratitude. Dr. Harris administers the injection. Coach Eck slumps into the mud. He is suited up, bound, and pulled beneath the surface. For the first time in 17 days, Nern Noen Nom Sao, the muddy shelf in the belly of the mountain, is completely empty. There are no voices. There is only the sound of dripping water and the deep, rumbling current. The mountain has been emptied of its hostages. 2 miles away, in the massive cavern of Chamber 3, the atmosphere is electric. The forward operating base is packed with over 100 rescue workers, Air Force pararescue men, Thai SEALs, logistics coordinators, and civilian volunteers. A cheer goes up as the final stretcher is pulled from the water. Coach Eck, still deeply unconscious, is quickly checked by the medical team. His pulse is thready but stable. He is loaded onto the sked stretcher and passed down the human chain toward the exit. It is 6 p.m. The mission is, for all intents and purposes, a miraculous, impossible success. 13 lives saved. 0 casualties among the boys. The workers in Chamber 3 begin to pack up the heavy equipment, the spare oxygen tanks, and the medical supplies. They are laughing. They are slapping each other on the back. The nightmare is over. Then, a sound echoes through the cavern that freezes the blood in every man's veins. It is a loud, metallic bang, followed by a horrible grinding noise. Then, silence. The deafening, constant roar of the main industrial water pump, the massive machine that has been holding the ocean of rainwater at bay for 2 weeks, suddenly stops. The pump has catastrophic engine failure. It is dead. For a second, nobody moves. Then, the water reacts. Without the pump fighting it, the underground river surges. The water level in Chamber 3 does not just rise, it erupts. A wall of muddy brown water sweeps into the cavern. The water level rises at a terrifying speed, inches every few seconds. "Get out!" a Thai commander screams. "Drop everything! Move!" Panic, absolute and unfiltered, erupts in Chamber 3. The 100 men who were just celebrating are now fighting for their lives. The water is rising to their waists, then to their chests. They drop the expensive medical gear. They abandon the diving tanks. They scramble up the slippery, jagged rocks toward Chamber 2. It is a terrifying bottleneck. Men are slipping in the mud, falling into the rising water, and being pulled up by their comrades. The lights strung along the ceiling begin to short out as the water swallows the heavy electrical cables, throwing sections of the cavern into pitch blackness. Sparks shower down from the ceiling. The smell of ozone and burning plastic mixes with the smell of the flood. Deep inside the cave, Dr. Harris and the 3 Thai SEALs are still swimming back from the mud slope. They are oblivious to the failure of the pump. When they finally surface in Chamber 3, they expect to find the brightly lit, bustling forward operating base. Instead, they surface into a dark, rapidly flooding cavern. The water is churning violently. The equipment is floating away. The last of the rescue workers are scrambling up the rocks in the distance, screaming at them to hurry. Dr. Harris and the SEALs do not even bother to take off their fins. They scramble out of the water, dragging their heavy gear, running up the rocks just as the floodwaters swallow the ground where the medical tent stood minutes before. They run through Chamber 2. They run through Chamber 1. The water is chasing them, snapping at their heels like a living predator. They burst out of the mouth of the cave and into the pouring rain of the jungle. They collapse in the mud, gasping for air. Behind them, the water rises to the roof of the cavern. The sleeping lady has slammed her door shut. Had the rescue taken 1 hour longer, the entire forward operating base and the final boys would have been entombed forever. In the sterile, bright lights of the Chiang Rai Hospital, the 13 members of the Wild Boars are kept in a strict quarantine ward. Their immune systems are decimated. They wear thick sunglasses because their eyes, accustomed to total darkness for over 2 weeks, cannot handle the fluorescent lights. The parents are brought in. They are not allowed to hug their children yet. They must stand behind a glass window, wearing medical gowns and masks. A mother steps up to the glass. She looks at her son. He is incredibly thin, hooked up to IV bags, but he is sitting up in bed. He looks at her through the glass. He presses his hands together and bows his head. She presses her hands against the glass and weeps. It is a silent, overwhelming reunion. For the first few days, the boys are protected from the news of the outside world. They are fed soft porridge. They are treated for minor infections. They are allowed to slowly reacclimate to the world of the living. But eventually, the doctors know they must be told the truth. The psychiatric team gathers the boys in a circle in the ward. Coach Eck is with them. A doctor stands before them and gently explains the sheer magnitude of what it took to bring them home. He tells them about the thousands of volunteers, the international divers, and the millions of people praying for them. Then he tells them about Saman Kunan. He explains that the former Navy SEAL died in the dark water, placing oxygen tanks so that they might live. The boys are devastated. The joy of their survival is immediately tempered by the crushing weight of sacrifice. They weep openly. Coach Eck, the young man who kept them alive with Buddhist teachings, leads them in a prayer.